Thermal protection falling. 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 Extreme cold damage detected. Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling. recharge. Thermal protection falling. Thermal protection falling. Technology recharge. Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling. Thermal protection falling. Units received. Fuel required. Thermal protection falling. Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling. Fuel required. Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling. Thermal protection falling. Thermal protection falling.
I'm back.
Hey.
Technology recharge.
It's one of the nice Nice outing.
Thermal protection falling.
In my little exocraft, yeah.
He's roving.
He's roving. I got 15 salvage data. Pretty good little run here. Oh, I don't have any carbon on me. That's fine. I have to bash some trees.
Thermal protection falling.
That's funny.
Technology recharge.
Wait, is
What would
bashing
happen
it?
if you
Okay.
like? Can you get completely stuck in this game? Like, if you ran out of. No, you couldn't. Yep.
I have never been stuck yet. You can still bash it with your fingers.
Yeah, you can bash it. Also, I just realized,
Thermal protection
like, you can
falling.
always find little red crates.
Oh.
You know, those will have.
Technology recharge.
Carbon.
Yeah, this is
Thermal
what I'm doing.
protection falling.
This is the Corvette goodness.
Am I on the same planet with you right now?
Oh? Wintry goodness?
It's not winter yet.
Little T-Rexes and Stegosauruses running around.
Yeah. Planet is Aniston 8. You can see your planet by going into discoveries.
Yep. Yeah, it is. You are here with me, sir.
Right, yeah.
True data.
You don't happen to have piles of emerald, do you, for being here?
No. I do not. I do not. Man, this EXO thing is kind of... I thought it wasn't going very fast initially. I did upgrade a little bit of it, but... Traverse really fast.
I think in the previous game, the reason I didn't use it that much, like I remember starting to use it and feeling like it's just kind of inferior to the ship.
Thermal protection falling.
Like at a certain point, I mean, even right now, I don't really care much about thrusters. Like, I've got 15 launch thrusters in my ship, and so when I'm on foot, I can kind of like. Can you scan while you're in the rover? Like,
You need an upgrade. You can mine and scan in the rover if you have the upgrades for it.
Because if you can scan, like you can see mineral deposits and stuff, like when you're looking through, like when you're looking in the analysis mode,
You need an upgrade for it, but yeah, you can get it.
that would seem really sweet. But generally what I do is I look through my analysis visor, and if anything is like farther than 200
Thermal
units,
protection
I
falling.
just jump in my ship and I'm there like instantaneously.
Oh, we could go. We could do a race. I'm sure I beat you.
In 200, yeah. In 200, it's but for 500, it's probably faster than ship.
Yeah. Let's see.
Thermal
Yeah, 200
protection
units.
falling. Technology recharge. Thermal
I'm
protection
on foot.
falling.
I'm marking 400 away. I'm jumping in my ship.
Guess it depends on the terrain too.
And I'm there.
That does seem faster.
But it's annoying because you can only tag one thing and then fly to it. So you can't. What I imagine being really sweet about the rover is you can just kind of like traverse the planet and look for resources as you go.
Where's the building? You do need upgrades, but yeah, you can make it kind of nice. Oh no! I destroyed the trees of. No. Oh. Give me your data.
Units received.
What are you saying that up for again?
I did just get a container, but I may need to get more containers.
It's
Just
Thermal
general,
protection falling.
general goodness. I did see that there was a food processor, so kind of wanna. I might do that tonight. Just kind of chill out and experiment with some recipes.
Yeah, I'm so curious what you get going with that. What? No.
Temperature levels stabilizing.
Salvage data. Let's go. Oh, there's a observatory. Little number. Very easy. Rational math problem. What did I just find? Don't know. Oh, is it a settlement?
Did you say you got a settlement going?
I did. Well, I have one charted. I went to it and killed 5 sentinels to liberate them, but I haven't taken any actions yet to become administrator. That's the next step. But I do have a side
Jimmy
mission.
Prime.
Jimmy
Ground
Prime.
protection falling.
I wonder if every system has a unique generates. No, this is a duplicate. Be kind of crazy to get the Jimmy, the one and only Jimmy.
Sorry, what was your question?
I was just curious if this is a unique name or if there is a repeat. Like, is this the only Jimmy system?
Temperature levels stabilizing.
Yes. I think it is. I think they are unique, but actually, maybe they can't be because
Yeah, because
I don't
of
remember the combinatorics of it. But yeah,
Does
there's
seem
like
a bit outrageous to not be unique.
there's like trillions of systems, right?
I thought there was more than that.
Maybe more than that, yeah. So
Ground protection falling.
Ooh, I can call my ship. How far did I get away from my ship? Trade 1 power gen. Oh, it's your base. And what is this? This is the ancient ruin off planet. Okay. Oh, listen, look up. Let's keep it going.
even the system, I'm gonna look for mining or technology.
Ground protection falling.
Oh, yes.
So it's confirmed that manipulating terrain doesn't bother the drone.
Yeah.
Ground protection falling. Technology recharge. Technology recharge. Ground protection falling.
full. No. Yeah, some of these are producing some interesting higher value items. Like this is 1.6 million for this experimental hydraulic.
Ooh, there's a system called UFA.
Technology recharge.
Ah, found one. That's 3-star technology.
Thermal protection falling.
Ooh. They got a black market movement system that gives 107 jetpack tanks percentage. It's not
Nice.
that.
Is that like the X class
Yeah.
upgrade? Yeah. Nice.
Thermal protection falling. Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling.
Oh, there's two of them here.
What is super critical again for our planet?
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Like there's a planet. It's called the super critical.
I'm not aware of that. There's a planet called Super Critical.
It's the type of planet like there's like Arctic planet, dusty planet, tropical planet. And there's one that's called. It's like a Mayan.
Crazy.
Thermal protection falling.
A rusty board.
Thermal protection falling.
One that collectors want it. 500,000. Okay.
Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling.
Alright, let's go and find out.
How much is your ship, mister? Oh, it was an S class.
What type?
I'm not sure how to classify it.
I think there's like ones that come off the top of my head is there's like freighters or slash cargo ships and fighters and exploration.
Shuttle? It's a shuttle.
Shuttle.
It's at 36 inventory spaces and 26 modification slots. They want $37 million.
37 million?
Yeah.
You'd say?
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Alright. Last buried technology module. I have to go back. Oh wait, can I use my fucking ship for cargo? Yes? Oh my god. No. Never ends. There's 39 slots in my roamer? Okay. Never mind. I'm staying out here.
Oh no!
Thermal protection falling.
I'm always destroying stuff because I have my mining, my terrain manipulator equipped.
Oh yeah.
Supercritical is pretty creepy.
Technology recharge. Thermal protection falling.
Oh yeah, I want to buy the Atlas passes. That's what I want to do.
Oh yeah, how much are those?
I think they're 5 each.
Like 10 each? 5?
Or maybe they're 8. Maybe they're more than 5.
Thermal protection falling. Technology recharge.
Okay, so
Thermal protection falling.
Snag. Once I'm done this base, I'm gonna do the snag first. Chunk of money.
Nice. Another 4.
Well, it won't be a circuit yet.
Hey man.
Eating myself.
Fuck? They turn invisible. Stop eating my socks, man.
It's kind of testing a few. You might not know the reference.
Eating my socks. No.
It's a sound effect from Caesar 2, which I don't know if you played.
Oh. Yeah, okay. I remember you saying this lots.
Yeah, that you at least remember the. But yeah.
I watched you play some of it.
Ground protection falling.
Definitely watch. Oh my god! Jankiness. I just got launched about 100 feet into the air.
From what?
Well, maybe it was the dinosaur? Because he was like trying to attack me. I'm 62 units in the air. There's like a... Luckily there was an island. Just chilling in the air. Okay. Guess I'll go back down. It's funny.
Ground protection falling.
So random.
Technology recharge. Ground protection falling. Inventory full.
Inventory full. Chewed board. Pardon me.
So, what counts as a valid position for certain buildings? What's this one?
I can get emerald if you need to. I'm out here doing this.
I got it now.
You're good.
I'm already in the.
Ground protection falling.
I'm actually not sure if I ended up going to an emerald system.
Like half an hour later. I'll get you some of that. Slightly delayed.
Yeah, it's good. We like, for the time being, we're both super labor focused on this stuff.
It's so funny. It took so long to like process in my brain.
Ground protection falling. Fuel required.
start meditating again.
Hmm.
This game is like, it's probably not this game. I'm probably generally just a little bit edgy these days, but this game makes me feel like it's making me edgy. Especially when I'm constructing stuff, I start getting like,
Fuel required. Thermal protection falling.
the wiring is so messed up.
Oh yeah, I was.
Fuel required.
That
Go ahead.
that's still a problem in this game. It actually feels worse than when I was playing it before.
Technology
Crazy.
recharge.
Yeah, I was. I thought about a couple of interesting things after our like consciousness conversation. I was wondering if
Thermal protection
you're in
falling.
any sort of space talking about it right now for like a small period of time.
Yeah, like really cool stuff.
Just like specifically with like the free will sort of aspect of it. Because you brought meditation, I was thinking potential. Like, well, first of all, like, I guess there is like this. Well, like, I guess it kind of feels like the argument that there is no free will is sort of unverifiable. Like, I don't see how that you could actually prove that. And then, as well, like, am I here? I am here. With meditation too, is it like, is this an act of like, does this like break the,
Life support power low.
does this also break their free will sort of argument too?
Temperature levels
regards to just-
stabilizing.
Potentially not interacting with your consciousness.
Yeah, those are super interesting. The thing that so I think
Technology
you're
recharge.
like I sympathize and feel pretty. I only. I guess I can kind of say that I do like 100% agree with the statement that we can't really like prove free
It's-
will.
It seems unverifiable,
Or-
right?
Yeah, and I think like if you mean scientifically, then 100% I'm on board with that. Like
I guess this is more like determinism. Maybe is it this? Are they both the same, or is it like?
they're very related. And then depending on what you mean by free will, like there's a philosopher like Leibniz, also a mathematician. He's like one of the inventors of calculus. Really, really cool guy. And he famously, and this is like from what, the 1700s, he sort of famously has this philosophical framework for determinism that also makes sense of free will. Those two things are not always oppositional to one another, but like we were talking about last time, of course, like what we mean by those things, like it's always really hard to fully clamp down on and make super clear, and so it's like it's one of those things. But
Right, because
Yeah.
like some portion may be deterministic, but then other portions may not be. But then also, it's gonna be pretty hard to show. Like, it's kind of impossible to show. Right.
yeah, so yeah, I'll just kind of flag like that usually when people make those statements, like we're used to thinking that when we say something exists or that like we have free will, that these are because we're so in this scientific mode of speaking about things, that usually what we mean by that is oh no, I have to stop this guy, otherwise I won't be able to talk.
Oh yes, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'll just
I
throw a
like talking
wrench
about
right into your
yeah.
super focused building. Apologies.
It's actually nice. I think I need.
Okay.
It's actually like really good for me to have this a little bit of distraction from the game.
Cool.
Because the game kind of drives me crazy sometimes. Yeah. So like. But yeah, I'm gonna describe this a different way. Usually the reason that we think that we don't have free will is because of determinism. And the reason we believe in determinism is because of science. Like, we've discovered a sort of deterministic models, like mathematical models of, and that describe how things happen, and we can predict really well how things happen. And as soon as humans started doing that, humans also started questioning, like, well, wait a second, free will doesn't totally make sense then. If the universe is actually like this, and
yeah, I guess it is depending on what you mean by free will, I guess. But
and yeah, depending on what. But I'm even bracketing that aside. I kind of like to sometimes just think, okay, let's just like not worry too much about the definition. Just assume that we can kind of intuitively that we are sort of on the same page when we talk about free will, and we do often kind of mean the same thing when we talk about free will. The one quote, and I don't remember the exact quote, but a quote that I really like from like one of my favorite philosophers, Merleau-Ponty, I was talking to you about before. Like, he often highlights the fact that like science, in the first place, we didn't start doing scientific inquiry to tell us which phenomenon we observe exist or don't exist, or make sense or don't make sense. Like, the science is there. The phenomena happen first. We see things in the world first, and we experience them, and they mean stuff to us. And then we want to understand them. We want to predict them. Those predictions and those understandings come after. And so there is this kind of strange thing going on when we do use determinism to discredit free will, where we're kind of using our scientific worldview that was originally intended to help us understand the basic phenomena that we experience. We're using that scientific worldview to then tell us what phenomena we are experiencing, because the fact is that, like you say, like, and I really like that you bring up meditation in relation to this, because when you meditate, one of the things that just kind of like, that sort of presents itself to you is that you do seem to have a certain amount of agency over. You also end up experiencing a lot of non-agency. Like, there's a lot of aspects of thought and consciousness that just kind of like, you end up thinking about things without even meaning to. But there's also an intentionality to it. There's kind of like,
right,
when two different thoughts pop up, I can choose which one I want to turn my attention towards. And so there is this basic phenomenon, like
in brackets choosing, but yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. There is this basic phenomenon of sort of like intentionality, as Merleau-Ponty would maybe describe it. That it's just there, like, it's undeniably there, just like the sun is undeniably there.
Right.
And before we had science to tell us what the sun was, it would be very weird if somebody came up with a chemistry system, and then using that chemistry system, they're like, and the consequence of this chemistry system, which explains water really well, also tells us that the sun doesn't exist. You know, you'd be kind of like, well, I can see it right there, so that's actually just a bad chemistry system if it tells me that the sun doesn't exist.
Right. I think
Merleau-Ponty is kind of saying at the same time, like, if your science tells you that consciousness doesn't exist, then maybe your scientific system is just really bad at understanding consciousness or free will or whatever.
Okay. I think I hear what you're saying.
Sorry, yeah.
But I do kind of want to backtrack a little bit in regards to like determinism. Like, if you're not like specifically with like not being exposed, so like you're kind of not aware potentially of things you're not exposed to specifically. So like the environment you grew up in, everything that's like that you're associated or like or you have close relations with and like process that is like I think that's what the, like determinism is talking about specifically. So like it doesn't really like I hear you're talking I hear like the philosophy you're saying is like if you think it doesn't work then maybe like the science is telling you otherwise, but this does like kind of like it's not directly science even though it has like some scientific method with like just in regards to observing observations, but it's just to like reduce it back to if you're not exposed to something then like how can it have influence on you, I guess is kind of how I see determinism in like a very reduced way.
If you're not exposed to something, it can have influence over you.
Yeah, but like yeah I want to argue that for sure, that's definitely the case, but like are you in regards to like conscious processes, I guess we can't tell either way, but again but
I'm not entirely sure I understand you, but so maybe I'll ask, like, do you kind of mean...
I could make an example maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, so the example would be like just a kid growing up, right? And this is this is the third point I wanted to bring up too, was like the interesting part of like when kids develop consciousness is like a really trippy concept.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, you know, what where does that bridge? But anyways, going back, the example would be like an environment. So you like, let's say you quarantine a kid in like a very limited environment, right? If they're not exposed to these concepts, then like, are they able to like think of these things? Basically, is the idea.
Like, what
here.
kind of concepts do you mean? Do you mean like concepts of, like, if they're not exposed to the concept of consciousness, would they sort of see themselves as conscious? Or not?
Yeah, mostly just like a relationship, I guess, or like just in not relationship, but like in relative, like the relative up, like I'm using my train of thought now, but I think it's just like the relative environment specifically is influencing them specifically. Right?
Yeah, I think maybe if I understand part of what you're saying, that most there's different philosophers. There are famously philosophers who literally think that, like, and these are not many people believe this now. This is more like an enlightened period thing. Philosophers who think that, like, literally everything in the mind, and everything that you're experiencing is like a projection of some kind, and in a lot of ways that would be described as like idealism. And they would sort of, in a sense, believe the opposite of what I think you're trying to say, which is why I'm bringing this up, because I'm trying to see if I actually understand what you're talking about. Where they would say that, like, that everything that you perceive is actually sort of like the activity of your mind. And on the other hand, there's a more nuanced view that basically everybody, like almost everybody, would think of when they think of free will. That free will is always, to a certain extent, like, you don't have free will over everything. And like, there are aspects of myself, like the reason I come to think about certain things, like I think of Donkey Kong, like I mentioned, when I see a banana, isn't because I'm so whimsical and I have such an imagination that I think of Donkey Kong when I see a banana, and that's like the activity in my mind. It's like, no, clearly I've been influenced. Like, there's
Right.
this thing in my past that has had an effect on me that's altering the way that I think. And I wouldn't be able to think of Donkey Kong, or even try to make myself not think of Donkey Kong when I see a banana, if I had never experienced a Donkey Kong at all, which is like
Right.
something outside of me that's having influence on me. So there isn't always like an aspect of free will that doesn't belong to you. That's like that free will is kind of this like interaction between you and the world, and
Right.
Item
Is that-
received.
I'm not sure if that relates to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Item received.
But it definitely wouldn't be like a reason to say that there isn't any free will.
No, I'm not saying that.
Like,
I'm
yeah.
not claiming that.
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think it's possible to show that regardless at this point, but yeah. But yes, sentience is pretty trippy, especially the emerging sentience of like of kids. I think one of my like earliest memories was like me correcting my own speech was like a really interesting thing. So I was already like talking, which is like trippy. But I do remember like times too where I wasn't talking, I was like crawling around and stuff. But like those are a lot more vague memories with very like short, like very short memories. Basically, they're not like extended memories or whatever. But this is like an extended memory that was like, I would say it was like, I would say like a lion, or like a lion. When I was trying to like, instead of like saying like this is like something, I'd be like it's like a lion. Because I don't think I like knew what I was like saying potentially, but I was like mimicking and like trying to like to say something was like something else. But then I was like, I don't actually have to say that anymore. I guess because I like realized that this wasn't a correct usage of this word for whatever reason. And that was like, that's one of my first like conscious thoughts was like, I don't need to do this specifically because it's not accurate. Which is
That's
pretty...
rad that you have memories of language before you were able to like as you were sort of starting to make sense of it. I don't really have. Maybe I've got similar ones, but not as early as yours. Like I remember like Isaac and my mom, me and Isaac like going to our mom because we were angry at each other for something, and Isaac saying it's your fault, like you did it on purpose, and my mom was pulling a piece of meat out of the oven, and I was like, that word fault seemed very connected to the piece of meat somehow. Like
Whoa, trippy.
And because I didn't actually know what that word meant yet. I think Isaac was sort of like, I probably heard it before, but I was sort of like understanding it for the first time, and it was kind of like, oh, this word like could be related to the meat, or it could be related to what Isaac is saying. And yeah, there's a trippy thing going on.
So you were
but
trying
it was
to
kind of like,
go ahead.
but yeah, I mean, ultimately it was just sort of me sort of experiencing this weird fluidity of the meaning of words.
Right.
I think at an older age than what you're talking about, like kind of noticing the word having suddenly taking meaning, where before it was kind of this meaningless thing that could have been the piece of meat. Anyways.
Right, so you're trying to discern. You were trying to like figure out what this new vocabulary was, and then you were triggered by your environment to be like, oh, maybe this is it. But it was obviously not it, because you had done something to Isaac and you had understood that this was not the thing, but you might associate it with something. That's trippy. That's cool.
But yeah, I don't have these.
An interesting
What you're
part.
describing sounds kind of lower level.
Yeah, but the information that you don't have is that I didn't really talk. Like, this is probably a lot later than most kids talking, because my sister kind of interpreted, or sort of like understood. We were kind of like really close in regards to just like she would kind of speak for me. And she was like very socially intelligent at an early age because she was she's an only child.
Yeah.
And she didn't have this sort of like intermediate person to help them. But she was able to like figure out what I wanted, and I didn't really. I was like kind of just like my needs were kind of met socially in that regard, where she was going to represent some things, and I would like be like yay or nay, sort of. That was kind of so. I didn't really converse till much later, in regards to I think the average person too, and I also think that may have also heavily impacted my like speech capacity too, and also just like my social intelligence, which is like potentially lower. But I mean that's just like an abstract thing that is I can't really prove, but it would make sense that it would be less developed because I just didn't need it. But
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I know that. I mean, I remember you telling me before that you had like, what's it called? Like, you had trouble like enunciating words properly.
yeah,
But I guess that was like in an older age than this.
yeah,
Because what you're talking about now is like, yeah, just even like forming language. That's crazy. I wonder how common that is.
yeah, exactly. I wonder how common it is, especially with siblings, right? In that the second sibling, because I think personally I was more like critical or discerning of what was going on around me, because I didn't really need to. I didn't have that social need, and I didn't really find that like. I guess I needed to do that, but yeah, I felt like I was pretty critical in regards to just. That was more of what I was like in regards to just people, because I wouldn't interact with them. Like I would be more taking like language cues or body language clues instead of like specifically interacting with them in a language way. So I don't know if I'm like more intelligent in regards to just not having to, I guess, to default into some sort of like vocal interaction. But this is also just an abstraction that I don't have much evidence for, but it is kind of cool to like think about it.
It makes me want to read this. There's a philosophy text that I really liked. I haven't read it in a very long time, but I'm really wanting specifically talking about language. The role, from what I remember, it's kind of like the role of language in forming meaning. But I wasn't when I was reading it, I wasn't really thinking of like the role of language in forming our sort of like agency.
Yeah.
And that's like a really that's just like a really interesting aspect of all of this stuff that I never really studied that much, the linguistic aspect of it, but that's definitely something I've seen philosophers talk a lot about. Like, some people will go really, really deep into kind of like trying to understand how we form meaning through language and how that relates to our own personal agency, like, which I mean clearly, like, yeah, I mean when you, like, as you're describing, like a child sort of like starting to become, you know, starting to become sentient, starting to become
Yeah, like
an
self-aware.
agent
Right.
and self-aware, like that's happening alongside learning language, and those two things clearly are like have an impact on one another. Like, and I don't personally think that like language, and I think you probably don't think this too, like language is a necessary condition for being sentient.
No.
I think that, you know, I think that like dogs are sentient, obviously, like lots of animals clearly are.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have much. We can kind of teach them a little bit of language, but that doesn't really seem to be so much at the core of their sentience. Like, but
Yeah.
for us it is, which is really interesting. Like,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I think it kind of does define us as like sentient creatures.
Well, it defines us as socially, like highly socially intelligent creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is, like, our language is, like, yeah, it's kind of nuts. But other animals have language, some language apparently as well, which is trippy. But like dolphins and whales, specifically, and crows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's true. It's
I need to download it.
no
Sorry,
downloading
go on.
basis. Yeah. No, I'm basically done. I'm basically good here. Yeah, thanks for sharing some of that. It helped me. Ugh.
Yeah. I wish I had like a good. I wish there was good like YouTube philosophy content or even good philosophy podcasts, but they're honestly like really. I guess podcasts I haven't looked into so much, so it's been a long time. Maybe. There's probably some stuff out there that's really good that I'm not aware of. But I don't know of any of it.
Yeah, recently, I guess I've been kind of consuming too much. Well, not too much, but it sort of made me aware that some of the content I was consuming was frustrating in a way that I felt like they could maybe try to, like, the crew that they had had a bunch of diverse sort of specialties, and they're kind of just debunking which like I find value, or I did find value in specifically, but it at the sort of debating level, which I think at this point for me it's sort of rage inducing, and I just kind of
what
want
were they debating? What kind of stuff?
This is mostly
Was it, like,
just
philosophical content, or
it's mostly like religious debunking sort of,
yeah.
which is
Oh yeah, and there's so much of that on YouTube.
yeah.
I kind of stumbled into this recently. There's a guy who's really well known. I want to say his name's like Matthew Dullahunty.
Yeah,
something.
Matt Dillahunty.
Bald.
Matt Dillahunty.
Dillahunty, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I really like him.
Yeah. He's pro. He's been doing it for 20 years.
There's a lot of characters in this world, but what I find really interesting of it is it's like, yeah, it's really, okay, so this is gonna sound kind of elitist of me to say, but none of them are philosophers.
Right.
Like very few of them are academic philosophers. They describe themselves as philosophers, and I do think to a certain extent that makes you a philosopher. Like that's legitimate.
Yeah.
None of them are academic philosophers, and there is something that academic philosophers can really bring to the table.
Mm.
And I think that the reason like we never see, and this is just unfortunate, this is why there's no good like philosophy content on YouTube, is because in the current academic environment, like just sort of describing the last like 30, 40 years of academic philosophy, like it's very hyper specialized. Like you specialize in a very specific question, and you'll be like one of the only people, you know, it takes like an entire undergraduate degree for people to just understand you talk about the thing that you specialize in, because it is so goddamn specific.
Mm.
And when you speak outside of your specialization, that's like really frowned upon. And so that
Right.
kind of creates a climate where for philosophers, academic philosophers don't really want to go and talk about stuff online, because they can either talk about their thing and nobody's going to understand it, or they can share some of the general frameworks that they have outside of that, but other philosophers are going to take issue with that.
Right.
So it's kind of just safest to just kind of not sort of do this sort of public intellectual thing.
Right.
And the result is a lot of the time that, like, I guess and I agree. One of the things that I also don't like about that culture that currently exists is that it's very debate oriented.
That's right.
And like you said, it's kind of debating is cool and it has its place. But even a video of just that guy, like I can't remember his name, but even when he's just talking, he's usually like he's like doing a takedown of Jordan Peterson or something. So even when it's not an actual debate, it sort of takes this form of like me versus you. I'm gonna pull apart your arguments. I'm gonna show you why these arguments suck.
Yeah.
There's very little like building up of ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in his I was actually in his Twitch stream a couple days ago, and then he was talking about some stuff, but what I want to say here, basically, he's okay. I guess he I don't think he like self-prescribes himself as a philosopher. He does. He's kind of like sort of a like he kind of debunks. He went to like ministry school, so he kind of says maybe he's like a debunker, I guess, but he doesn't really self-prescribe anything really. But he's really familiar with specifically like fallacies. So he's really like he'll point out a fallacy like immediately. And that's kind of like the whole channel is just like waiting for a fallacy to drop and then just being like, this is a fallacy. But they're basically also just like talking to like you're saying, like I know it sounds kind of elitist too, but just like kind of low, like just people that are kind of getting baited into calling specifically, and don't like such a small portion of the people that are like interacting on this podcast are have any sort of like experience with what they're talking about. And the problem with debating is like I saw this video recently too with he's another atheist in the community as well in Texas, genetically modified skeptic, and
that name rings a bell.
He just did a video about the like how there was a study specifically looking at debates. So like the large political debates that happen between like the two candidates in the U.S. Basically, there's like such a small percentage of people that may be influenced, but it's basically like zero. And people that go to debates kind of are just like they already have a confirmation bias, and they're kind of not really like they're kind of just super defensive. Like people have a point of view, and they're just like they're not really like a debate is it is more like a war zone than like a sort of conversation. Because you can there's like expert debaters who will be like won't even really engage on what they're debating, and then just kind of like pick apart the other person, right? And it's like we're not really moving anything forward. We're just kind of like picking at each other, and then like at some level there's probably some hypocrisy. So they're like, oh, you're a hypocrite because of X thing or whatever, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's pretty annoying to like to get hypercritical in that way and not like progress and talk about like just move the conversation forward. Like it doesn't have to be about anybody, but talking about ideas is like it's much more productive than just like laying in on each other for no reason.
Yeah, I do think, like, I like to separate, like, this is an artificial distinction, but I like to create it for myself, that there are two different, you can categorize debates into two different types. Like, there's a form of debating that doesn't serve a purpose of actually creating good arguments. The purpose of the debate is kind of more like when you make memes that like shame Andrew Tate, for example. Like,
Right.
like I love the fact that Andrew Tate stopped being popular with kids because there's basically like that Andrew Tate LoJack meme that kind of destroyed him. Like,
Nice.
like you destroyed him. Andrew Tate kind of got destroyed in the minds of a lot of kids, not because he was argued to be wrong, but because he was made to be cringy. And a lot
Nice.
of debates are straight up, like they're not there to be rational. They're the people who are presenting on both sides of the debate very possibly are not actually trying to create like great arguments. They're trying to make the other side seem cringy.
Oh, true.
And that kind of debate, like a lot of debate is like that. And I guess what I like to, and what's helpful for me to when I think about this is actually I do think that kind of debate is important. Like,
Right.
I think it's important to make the other side that I think sucks and is destroying the world
Mm-hmm.
seem kind of cringy. And so people who do it really well, I admire them. And
Mhm.
I don't know, somebody maybe who's kind of like that for me, it would be like Hassan Piker. Like, sometimes Hassan Piker is good at, not that he does like a ton of debates, but
Mhm.
and he does sometimes present really good arguments, but most of the time when he's like taking somebody down, his arguments aren't great. He's just really good at making bad people seem shitty, and that
Mhm.
serves a really good purpose. And then the debates that are not that, the debates that are creating cohesive arguments, those debates, you're right, in the moment are rarely going to change people's minds, but what those debates are doing is they're creating a reference point. They're going to be recorded in history.
Mhm.
Like we have old debates, like, you know, before any of our current media existed, there were debates that happened between like Leibniz and Newton, for example. Like they had like public letters that would go back and forth, like the philosophers would duke it out. And probably back then they weren't really changing people's minds either.
Mhm.
But as time passed over like hundreds of years,
Mhm.
that both sides of that sort of became the structure of our thoughts on that subject that allowed people to think on it more deeply. Like, we reflected a lot on those debates. And
Interesting.
and I do think that, and that happens on a much shorter time scale too. Like I have heard lots of stories of people who, for some reason, were convinced that, like people who are on the right, who are sort of right-wing, like young, like manosphere dudes, for example, or something. Like one example is that guy Adam something on YouTube. He does like a lot of like anti-Elon Musk stuff, and he talks about how he kind of used to be like a little like, he used to really like Jordan Peterson, and I don't know exactly what changed him in the first place, but once his mind did change, he talks about like watching all of this stuff, like talking about Jordan Peterson and getting really educated by it. Like, so I think when people's minds do change, all of that stuff is then there for them as a reference to go and see like, oh, like now I can deepen my understanding. Like now that I am on this side, I can deepen my understanding of it.
Right.
But I think you're right, it's not actually going to change those people's minds. What's more likely to change their minds is the shaming side of things.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't have any value. I hear what you're saying. I'm just, for me personally at this point, I think that I had like a bit of a blockage in regards to my priorities, specifically with like looking at it at a macro level and then bringing it to my own like micro level, where like I would kind of like want to correct people or like spend some time with people if like and try to like educate them, or just try to like show them like something that like I think would help them. But at this point, like it is for me, I'm sort of, there's kind of parallel in that regard, so I'm kind of like stepping back in regards to maybe addressing like just everybody, or like the random person who is just acting out, or the person who is like am I going to make any sort of difference in their life? Probably not. They probably forget about it, right? It's just like kind of dressing funky, or like walking around. People don't really remember. They remember, like, some people might be inspired by you, and then they might remember you. But there's like this huge spectrum in the middle where like they might remember you for a small period of time, but like 4 days later, they don't really remember you at all, or what you did, unless they're on either extreme. Like if you did super offend them, then they'll be like traumatized, and then maybe they'll never forget. But most of it's just all in the middle there, and I don't even remember what I had for like lunch 4 days ago. So like, you know, it's kind of not that my lunch is offensive, but you know.
But you know, when you, but I like that you said that, you know, maybe when you like dress funky, you're gonna affect somebody in this really small way that they're not gonna remember, but it's kind of like a very subtle, low level thing. Like it's just, you know, it's like a grain of sand in an hourglass or something. Like,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you don't want to undervalue that. Like,
No, I'm not expecting.
Kind of,
Right. Sorry,
that's actually like really valuable, that we can affect people in these really small ways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it has value. I guess I'm kind of, and I'm not like denying that it has, like, there is a potential accumulation factor where there is some people we don't know. This is the other thing too, is that we don't know like kind of who's trolling or not. But at some point, like, do they make a switch for what I consider is like a better lifestyle, or like just a better conduct of like socially interacting with people, or not being so toxic or whatever. But for me, I guess like that was more of a like something I would want to combat very easily, and just like I would just do it. But I think at this point, like, maybe it's just a part, like maybe, like, I'm not saying this is like a forever thing either, but for the interim, I'm not going I'm gonna give myself some space to not feel like I'm responsible to deal with a lot of this stuff, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty healthy, especially if you were kind of feeling like you did need to take that on. And also especially like in relation to the stuff like we got to recognize also that so many of our I assume a lot of the interactions that you're talking about are online, and yeah, I think it's a lot harder to our interactions online unfortunately just affect people a lot less than they do in the real world, I think. Like, and that's not to say that in the real world it's always super effective, but I do think there's a lot more possibility in the real world that it might just be a random person that you end up talking to like at a bus stop. More likely it's like a friend of a family member or something, or like somebody who you have some kind of social connection to. Like then we've got a lot more power, I think, to change people's minds, especially when there's sort of like a feeling of sort of like mutual respect and like and goodwill between people. And like when there's a relationship, when there's an actual relationship, there's kind of an understanding of mutual respect, then those are like fertile conditions for changing people's minds through dialogue or through things that aren't dialogue that you're talking about, like dressing funky or whatever. Like those are also like ways that you can ideologically change people. But I think all of those things, like it's really like interacting with people online just kind of make you feel like
yeah, this is yeah. Maybe that did bring it to a boil, but I guess specifically I'm not going to be bothered by people in my life, I guess, more in the real life. Like that, I guess there was like a part of me to want to sort of take on a lot of this like stuff around me, basically, and then be like spending mental energy being like, this is potentially how I can solve this problem. But basically at this point I'm like, it's not a problem, it's just kind of like people at different stages of their life, and yeah, I'm not responsible for it. Shouldn't be my responsibility. I mean, there's a certain line obviously where it's like if I feel like someone's being like physically, like if someone is like threatening violence, or if like severely toxic in a way that, like, I'm not even sure what the line is here either, but I'm not saying that like I would just ignore everything and just like walk over a grandma who's fallen on the ground or something like that. But like, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel a lot of what you're saying.
It's kind of sad, parts of me too are like, am I like becoming like slightly like socially desensitized or something like that too, where like, and I'm kind of happy that the thought does occur, because it does mean that I'm probably not, but it is a different, like, I do feel like different in the regards to potentially being, I don't know what the word would be, I guess, psychotic? No, not psychotic. The socially, like,
Sociopathic.
yeah, sociopath, exactly. Yeah. So there's a part of me that's like, is this like, is this the road down be a sociopath? But I think I'm okay, and I'm just, maybe I am like, maybe you're like you're saying too. This is potentially a healthy perspective, or at least a place where I can take a break or whatever, and then doesn't have to be
I can
forever.
say, like,
Yeah.
I think 100% if this is something that stresses you out at all, then you are far from being sociopathic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If I'm even thinking about it, it's like, I think it's a really good indicator that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Man, I got all these ship parts and I don't know. I don't want to buy it, man. Is it not possible to get a cockpit?
I am finally making some of my first trade money. That's very small.
But yeah, thanks again for listening. I wanted to share that. And you were
Yeah, no. it's-
you good listening. I appreciate you listening too.
You talking about the grandmother falling over makes me think of this happened. This is like, it's always my fear that this will happen in Montreal. So something happened to me on the street where somebody fell over, basically. So, like, the neighborhood that I live in is like, one second, I'm just gonna close my window. There's like a lot of noise coming from the street.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Hasidic Jews in this neighborhood. Are you familiar with like that kind of?
It's like a fundamental Jew.
Yeah, I don't know how to like your terminology is probably better than mine. I think they are
Like Orthodox
I
Jews.
think they're usually described as Orthodox, but they're kind of like an especially strict Orthodox Jew.
Yeah. Yeah, fundamental is fine for this.
And they there's a lot of them in Montreal. Like Montreal is a big civic city now. There is New York. They have a very strict dress code. One funny thing about them is like they can't like turn off or on. Like they can't switch any electrical appliances on and off on Fridays, I think.
Right.
And since I've lived here like a few times, like you'll be on the street and they'll run to a goy, like a non-Hasidic person, to be like, "Oh my God, can you please like come to my house right now? We need you to like turn on the lamp because it's like causing a fire."
Oh my God.
Or recently, they needed me to turn off a stove that was supposed to be automatic, but it was like overcooking their meal. And then they'll always like give you a chocolate or something. It's really funny. And
This
the
is
kids will
madness.
be like
What the hell?
really excited because like a goy is in their house and it's really funny. It's really, anyways, yeah. The interactions between the communities is really funny. But one thing that's weird about it is that they, for the most part, ignore that you exist. Like I think it's really hard for them to live in the city where, like, you know, Montreal's like a very progressive city, especially around this neighborhood. Like young people will just kind of wear all kinds of
Right.
crazy stuff or promiscuous stuff, and from a very young age they kind of learn to basically like pretend that you don't exist, which makes sense. Like, but anyways, I'm always worried about like if a kid like hurt themselves in front of me, I don't know what I would do, because like I'm not sure if they would want me to interact with their children, you know. And I was like walking on my block, and a kid was like riding a scooter. The Hasidic kids love scooters; like they're always going around on their scooters. And he just like fell flat on his face and started like crying. And it was like a kid, like maybe too young to be on a scooter, like
Right.
like 4 years old or something. And I was just like, I stopped, and I was like, but I didn't actually like reach out my hand to pick the kid up because I didn't like know what to do. And then their parent was like not that far behind, but it was a very awkward interaction because I was kind of clearly like standing there like, I don't know what to do. Like,
Right.
am I allowed to like help your kid get up? It's really stressful. Sorry, it's not related to what you're talking about, but you just made me think about it. It's like such an awkward interaction.
Yeah. I guess it's hard for me to comment. Like, obviously you didn't do anything wrong. I also don't think it's like I'm not. I don't think you know, if that's like, yeah, I don't, well, first of all, I don't know about like their customs specifically. I don't, they may just like, yeah, I don't know how that works specifically with like, when I was growing up, I guess, I'll give you a perspective of like fundamental Christians, because I was in the like, the deepest, like, well, like the most strictest, I guess. Like, there's fundamental Christians, and then there's like Orthodox Christians. So there's like a whole bunch of etiquette, not just like taking the Bible literally, but it's like also just like a very isolated community. So I had a similar sort of upbringing too, where it was like, don't trust anybody, and potentially people are like possessed by demons. Like, it's really bad. It's such a harsh like upbringing in regards to like just being afraid of everybody, and also being afraid that they'll infect you. So I don't know if that's like on par, and that's why they're isolating themselves. But it's probably something.
Pretty sure it's not. From my understanding of the Hasidic, especially Hasidic beliefs, I think they don't. They're.
It's more like an ethics code, and it's less of like a scarce mentality, I guess.
I think it's much more practical than sort of spiritual. The fear is much more practical than it is spiritual. Like, I don't think they're definitely not worried that people, that outsiders are evil in some way. I don't think that.
Right.
I think they do see themselves in a certain way as like they are sort of God's chosen people. So there is maybe some kind of spiritual superiority, but they don't see us as like spiritually dangerous or bad.
Okay.
But they do. But they do have, their community is very insular.
Right.
Like, Hasidic Jews do not marry non-Hasidic Jews. It's actually like
Right.
a problem for them in terms of like genetic diversity, and they actually have like buses that go back and forth between Montreal and New York just so they can like meet other Hasidic Jews.
Yeah.
And like they don't socialize. They're not really allowed to socialize with people. That in that way, it's more intense, I think, than your upbringing. Because like I know, for example, that you were at least allowed to hang out with me, although it was still pretty intense.
Just
some
barely.
Of your friends,
Just barely.
I know, like with Jules, your parents didn't really like want you hanging out with Jules. But in the case of Hasids, like it would be unthinkable that a Hasidic kid would have a friend,
right,
who's non-Hasidic, who they would go visit their house,
right,
or they would visit their house. Like that does not happen.
Yeah.
Like the communities are completely separate, and even as adults, like sometimes you'll meet them. Like I did once meet a Hasidic person in my language classes, and they'll kind of like, yeah, they'll talk to you and stuff, but there's a very clear line, like you do not get to know. You don't get to know the person. Like you're never going to see them outside of that context. And I think so. There's kind of a more practical, like they really don't like their kids interacting with people outside. Like as their kids are growing up, they're kind of learning this distinction, and it feels very intense. Like sometimes I see that their parents like pulling their kids away from just looking at somebody on the street who might look unusual or something. Like it's
that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with what you did, because like you being there is support in a way, and you're also respecting customs. So like I don't see any problem with what you did at all. Like you're trying to do both. So
I didn't so much feel like I did anything wrong as much as it was just super awkward.
Yeah, I feel that.
Because my Yeah, my response is like, you see a kid like hurt on the street, probably like make sure they're okay or something. But then it's like you realize it's a Hasidic kid, and you're like, fuck. I'm like not supposed to talk to you.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of awkward. I guess we go back to like talking about like grains of sand too. Like it's not like maybe there is like I'm not sure how much respect I would give that community in general, just because I did grow up in an isolated community, and any sort of like way to humanize what I was taught that were like dangerous humans is a step forward, and a way to an exit strategy. So like, yeah. But again, I mean, it's slightly hypocritical because like, well, I'm just saying there's value in it, even if, but I wouldn't particularly be doing that at the moment either, just because I'm trying to stay away from all that stuff that I think is, I just assumed it was my responsibility or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I used to feel more strongly about certain aspects of them